Welcome back to the tea party. We're not quite all mad here yet. And thank you for returning for part 2 of Vampire Pauldrons. Let's go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes.
After getting an upgrade to my blade and a whetstone, I did end up going back and recutting all of the pieces that I had cut out up to this point. It was so much easier on my hand and wrist. It took probably less than half the time of my first round of cuts, and the angles were far better with these cuts than they were the old box cutters and no whetstone. Look at that. Beautiful. I could immediately tell the difference when I started gluing my pieces together because, again, the angles were so much better. I was getting angled armor pieces as a result instead of something that looked more like a paper plate. From this point forward, it was pretty much rinse and repeat with gluing the pieces together. Lay down some cement, let it dry, stick pieces together, rinse and repeat. I thought you might like to see me struggle with this wand trying to refill my squeezy bottle. Eventually, I gave up on the wand and went for the pour. This is the point where I really started to get excited because I was starting to see what my finished product was going to look like. This was my first time getting some bigger pieces together. It was really looking great. There was a learning curve with figuring out how to put the pieces together, and this is where I started attaching the right and left sides of the first pauldron. It also got a bit tricky from here trying to put the pieces together where overlap was involved. This was on the second one, and the way I ended up going about this was, I'm about to do it here, I made a line on the back of the pauldron that just showed where I needed to apply cement. If I hadn't done that, I would have had cement all over the place. Looking good. I think when I was doing this part of the process to heat seal the foam before applying any primer, I went too hard at it because I noticed that the foam was turning yellow in some spots, which to me means that I was scorching it a little bit. This could be what affected my end product after using the plasti dip and the spray paint, or what I ended up with could just be the product of what you get when you go the plasti dip spray paint route. I don't know. I also took this opportunity to do a little bit of molding and just turning those edges in a direction that felt less threatening to someone's eyeball. I wouldn't typically pay much mind to the back of a piece like this, but you can actually see some of the backs of these pieces when you're wearing them, so I did seal it, prime it, and paint it. I think on most projects, unless you wanted your seams to be visible, you would want to use quick seal to smooth them out so you don't see them on your finished product. And that made a huge difference on this project. I also had some really big gaps going along the seam that runs up the middle of my pauldrons where the pieces just didn't come together quite right, and the quick seal helped me disguise that. I did see that if you don't clean up the excess quick seal, it can impact your finish in the end. I didn't have any issues with that, but maybe because I cleaned up the quick seal as I went, might be why I didn't run into any issues.
At first I thought I was going to wear an off-the-shoulder dress, the black one that I showed you guys up to this point, but new dress has entered the chat. So we're gonna go with that instead, and it's not off the shoulder. I'm gonna wait to reveal that until the end, but I'm excited about it. What I decided is to try to do a DIY halter.
We're not even going to go down this rabbit hole because it's all lies. I ended up not going with this method. We're going to pretend that this didn't happen.
I have gold pauldrons, but I don't love them, and they have issues. Something happened with, I'm guessing, the sealing process. Either I messed up with the heat sealing part where I went over the foam with my heat gun, or I messed up with the plasti dip and didn't apply it correctly. In order to fix this, I'm going to come in with a coat of ModPodge and a coat of acrylic paint. I'm doing a test spot right now. Let me show you how it's turning out. See how it has like pores and little bubbles? This is my test spot for doing Mod Podge and this metallic, this was kind of expensive, this metallic paint, but I really like the finish of that more than the finish of this. So that's what I'm gonna do. This technically is not dry yet, but even not dried down, I like the way that that looks 10 times better than the way that it looks currently. It doesn't look bad, it's just not what I was going for. Hey! I got 2 coats of this stuff on, and this is what I'm working with.
At this point, I've made the decision on how I'm going to attach these to my person, and I ended up going with an elastic cuff that fit around my bicep and was glued to the bottom of the pauldron so I could slip them on like a cuff. And I also used black twill tape to attach the hardware with the gold chains that I showed you earlier. And I kind of on a whim decided to run to the hardware store and pick up some magnets that I ended up gluing to the front of the pauldrons, and then there was a corresponding magnet that I slipped inside my dress so that it would hold my pauldron against my sleeve so they wouldn't slip around even though they were like cuffed on to my bicep. When I cut out my elastic, I cut it to my measurement and then stitched it together so that my circumference would be half an inch shy of what the circumference of my bicep was, but that wasn't enough, so I had to go back. I ended up doing a full inch off of my bicep measurement for that. I didn't do any measurements at this stage of the process. It was all kind of eyeballing it and then trial and error.
I'm super stoked because this is absolutely working and I couldn't be happier. So I'm going to make some adjustments on these chain lengths. Next time I see you, it will be for the reveal. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in more DIY content about self-awareness, or just some fantasy geek millennial lady and her cat, go ahead and subscribe. I upload videos most Fridays, and I'll see all of you ethereal little dumplings again real soon. Bye! The cross, this has got to get adjusted.